Welcome back to the LEC. I'm joined here with Oscar from Fnatic. Congratulations on your win, and thank you so much for the time for the interview. You look really happy, you seem really happy, and I want to see how you're feeling right now in terms of the performance that you've given today, but also throughout the entirety of the regular season of the split.
I mean, obviously I'm happy to win today. I think it was not the best week that we had, but it feels win to at least not go 0-3 and to perform one game. I think we didn't really play like super good this regular split. I think we could show like a way more better level in general, but it is what it is. I think we are fixing a lot of problems right now, and in playoffs we are gonna be a way stronger team.
Okay, a couple of points here that you mentioned that I want to pick apart. I want to start off with this week, particularly against MDK. Do you remember what happened there with the Nexus?
Yeah, I remember that for sure.
Do you want to talk us through it? Like, what was the thought process when that happened?
I mean, I think we just were a bit too excited. I think we were not in the best mental state to make that call. I think if we just didn't go, I think we could just play the next fight with Corki and Poke and just play the fight. I think we were in a decent position to make it, but I guess we didn't think we could win the next fight or something, and we just went to end, and yeah, we couldn't. So
it happens to the rest of us.
It was a banger, I guess.
It was indeed, actually. Is that though something that you want to work on going into playoffs, like getting a little bit too overheated, too overexcited, and going for these plays that potentially could lose you a game?
Yeah, we already talked about this. That I think it happened like 2 or 3 times already. And yeah, we talked about it so it doesn't happen again. So we are a bit more chill, like we are cool down in the game, we think clearly, and yeah. It's not gonna happen again, I guess, or I hope so.
I hope so too. I mean, being a Fnatic fan that day must have hurt a little bit. Going into playoffs, so it's gonna be a best of 3 format. So how do you feel about that? Are you more comfortable, more confident? Is the time between now and then, well, next week, you think enough to iron out some of these issues?
I think like everyone is way more excited for best of 3s. Like it's playoffs in the end, so everyone is excited to perform and to play well. Everyone wants to show that they are the best, and it's when it matters to perform. And yeah, I think we are all really excited, at least in my team.
Good.
And we want to show that we are actually a good team. And yeah, we didn't play well the last 2 games, but I think we are a top team for sure, and we can make it.
Yeah, well, we're going to see that. Thank you so much for your time for the interview.
You.
We're going to be heading back over to the analyst desk, so Laure, please do take it away.
Thank you so much, Ginny. Nice to see that Fnatic manages to save the week that they have. Not much at stake here for them, but I want us to talk about the next games that we have. G2 SK, an important one because it's the battle for first seed. Top 2 seed, sorry, very simple. The winner gets top 2 alongside BDS. So if G2 wins, they get first. If SK wins, BDS gets first, SK gets second, and G2 gets third. I know G2 likes to have fun on Mondays, but I don't think you want to draw this one.
I mean, this is the Content Monday, right? That's kind of their signature now, so it's up to them if they want to get the top 2 seeds, right? This is the game to do it. If not, 3rd seed, not too bad, but you do want that top 2. It kind of makes your life a bit easier in playoffs for sure.
I mean, I think at the beginning of the season, G2 might have ending up on first place, I think, is what people might have expected, but SK popped off, I want to say, for the first 2 weeks. Maybe a slower pace during this week. Eragon, what do you think of SK's trajectory in general?
Yeah, I think they definitely have slowed down. I thought for the entire time that they would start off quite strong. In my initial tier list, I actually had them 4th, right? Whereas most people had them 7th, and that's mainly because of the Nisqy effect. I figured, you know, this guy, he always does well. He's always, even when Mad, right? He was on Mad last year, and they were on a 10-loss streak, right? But every single game he was popping off regardless. So I figured, you know, he comes to this team, shot calls a rookie jungler, and they'll pop off.
I love to call Nisqy the jungler whisperer, because I remember the time he spent in NA alongside Blabber and how much he helped him within Cloud9. And I feel like we have the same effect with Isma this year. And it's really interesting because if you look at the jungle matchup here on both sides, you have Yike, who was the rookie I think we had last year, getting rookie of the season also, I believe, against Isma, who seems to have a similar trajectory within SK this year, Treatz?
I mean, they've both been insanely good, I think, this split. Isma came in with a lot of pressure from the get-go. I think his early games especially have been super clean. And then Yike, on the other hand, I feel like last splits, he was kind of in a backseat role with Mikyx kind of driving the early game. But now I would say that Yike is the main driving force in the G2 early games. And when he has these insane games on Zinstao like he's had insane Viego performances as well. The early game from G2, when Yike is ahead, has just looked better in general. And it doesn't come from just the bot lane like it did last season.
I love that Yike last year, when we got to discover him, was about the range of champions that he can play in any situation, and I feel like he understood more of his role when it comes to what G2 is looking for right now. But you know, Eragon, that he's the type of jungler who can play anything and pop up at any stage of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's evidenced in the past 3 weeks. We've seen them try absolutely everything with Yike, from Lillia to Maokai, right? And I really hope that they stick with carries on Yike, because across all of Worlds, they just kept putting on Maokai, Sejuani duty, and in my opinion, they won't hit the their ceiling playing that. I really want to keep him on Bel'Veth, Lillia, and these kinds of champions, and hopefully they'll get really good at that.
He would be really happy hearing this. I think he's really sick of being on street duty.
Maokai.
No more Maokai,
No
please, no more
duty.
street champions at all. But I love Isma as a jungler as well, because for me, he's a selfless jungler. He's the embodiment of a selfless jungler. Treatz, he's not scared to look bad if his team is gonna look good in the end.
I mean, he doesn't look like a rookie, to be honest.
Right?
He plays like he's been a veteran in the league for years. Like, he comes in with a lot of confidence, like you said, very selfless. I think sometimes rookies come in, they're a bit scared, they're a bit like hesitant on plays, but he knows what he wants, he just goes for it and he makes it work. So for me, he doesn't play like a rookie, to be honest.
Guided by Nisqy, of course. I think that's something that they both expressed during interviews. It's something that you can see when you watch them play.
Yeah, it's the same. There was this comms video that came out with Nisqy shot calling for Isma to gank on a specific minion last hit, which was super cool, right? It's really clear, and you can see they try it with multiple lanes. I think yesterday, though, I was a little bit disappointed where Irrelevant tried to set up a gank. I think he used a Q3 on Aatrox to try and get the enemy top lane to walk in, but then they just got wiped by Cabochard, right? So hopefully they keep it more consistent, and hopefully Isma can do well today as well.
I want to expand on what happened yesterday for SK, because it was an upset lose against KC here. KC picking up their first victory of the split. Should we be worried about SK when we look at the mistakes they made? How do you reflect on the game they played when it comes to the one they're going to play against G2 today?
I mean, I think the other losses that SK's had, they could kind of blame it on something like, oh, it was just a bad draft, or oh, it was just unlucky early game. But I felt like the game yesterday against KC, they kind of got what they wanted, and it still didn't go their way. So for me, that's a bit more alarming. I wouldn't say that it's doom and gloom for them now, right? But I think after yesterday, it was kind of like, oh, like they can actually be kind of exposed if the early game doesn't go their way. So for today, I think at least what they're hoping for and what I'm hoping to see is a bit clearer kind of goals in early game and not these overextensions that we saw yesterday.
Yeah, and I also want to, you mentioned draft. I think their draft yesterday was super questionable. Picks like Aatrox into Rumble, historically not that great of a matchup. And then a week before that, they kept picking, and I went to you for this. I was so confused. They picked Rakan into Senna Seraphine, and I was just sitting there like, what do they do? Right? They've had so many weird drafts where the game felt kind of auto-lost from the bat. Another example is the R5 Gragas. That was infamous, right? But yesterday for me, it was the Aatrox into Rumble, as well as the Corki into the Nico, which was super hard lanes to play.
Having locked in playoff for both teams, of course, there's standings implications here. But do you expect either teams to take any risks when it comes to drafting today?
Oof, I mean, I think this is, as I said, the next patch will come next week when playoffs start. So
might as well have fun.
Yeah, you might as well have some fun, right? I mean, G2, it is Content Monday after all, so this is the time to do it, guys. Come
Monday
on.
fun day, yay for G2. Eragon, any words on this?
I think this week we've kind of seen G2 go back to their lane dominant bot lane style, like a little bit less experimental. No, Xayah is part of that, but less experimental with jungle.
It's a great champion. What are you saying?
Diving on slow push down bot side, slow pushes down bot side. So I expect them to do more of that this week.
You know what's something that stayed with me, because I've talked with both coaches in interview, is whether it's Dylan or SK's coach, they always say, Swiffer, sorry, they always say discipline. We're working on discipline. Who is the more disciplined team here? I know it's hard to look at G2, but I don't know, they started from higher, I think. How do you rate the discipline from both teams?
I mean, I haven't been super impressed with the G2 discipline, at least in early game. I think SK actually overall throughout the split has been more disciplined. I think even in their losses, they've kind of looked for plays that just have failed, whereas the G2 losses have been kind of fiestas, I would say. Even in the games where they pick up 2 kills for Hans early, it's still been like, oh, now we throw it back to the enemy for a bit of fun, you know? So I would say SK so far, more disciplined team, but the split is obviously still long with playoffs coming up as well, so there's still time to kind of rectify things.
And I think another thing that supports your point is that a lot of the time when you see SK make mistakes, their mistakes, they kind of make sense. Whereas you look at G2's mistakes and you're just seeing Mickey's Nautilus engaging 10 miles from his team, right? So I think SK in that regard, with their plays making more sense, they're the more disciplined team.
Gotta be hard being a G2 fan, honestly, not knowing what to expect, especially on these Mondays. It's a matchup I've been looking forward to, honestly, because of how explosive both junglers have been. I think that's one I want to keep my eyes out here in the early game. We'll see what kind of decisions both teams make. Any picks that you want to see or that you don't want to see on either side before we...
I mean, no Maokai for Yike. Yeah,
that's more for him.
That's gone already in my head already. I think Vi is a pretty high prio pick. I mean, Isma's like the Rel a lot as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
So I expect kind of those junglers being picked up for both teams. I think bot lane, like you said as well, there's been a lot of aggressive champs this week for Hansama. He's been liking the Kalista, and I think might just be banned away, honestly, by SK.
I mean, you're always going to throw a lot of bans bot lane, especially given the meta, but when it's Hans playing against Draven, Kalista, the champions,
I was wondering about that because Exakick likes his Draven. Right, he's actually one of our Draven players. They might leave it open. That's Kalista open, pick Draven into it. Top side, I think we'll see the fairly standard bans. I feel like against Irrelevant, every single team has target ban Jax. Yeah. Won every single time. So
he's the only good YouTube later on Jax. Sorry, but something has to be said here. Although, when you look on the side of Bibi, first Vladimir in years, actually. So
Bibi's had a really good week as well, to be fair. And I think it's going to be interesting, both on the top pool, but the bot pool. Like, do you ban out both the Draven and the Kalista? Do you leave both open? I think it's kind of up to the teams and their prio on that side. If I'm blue side, obviously I would be down to first pick Kalista with a Draven ban. So I think it might just be a 1-ban Draven from SK and then response ban instantly from G2 with the Kalista.
Waiting for draft to start here, of course, with the cool music, the chill music here. So this SK and G2. I think it's going to be an interesting game for SK to prove themselves against G2. I feel like G2 is always a mark that you have to overcome and surpass to think of yourself as a good and strong team, and that's what they're going to be aiming for today. First ban Draven, expected here. Varus to keep on going with the bot lane is taking a
There's been a lot of bot lane bans,
man.
a lot. There's the Kalista as well. I think that's kind of expected when you see Draven ban. Kalista pops up in your head, obviously. Varus and Ashe are the most lane dominant AD carries that are left in this pool, so I expect with the Varus ban, the Ashe ban could follow, or if Ashe is picked by SK, that G2 has a good strategy to kind of match it with.
And it's always the same game of banning and trading OPs, Eragon, on the meta that you have right now. So what are both teams going to prioritize in the first phase?
If I'm not mistaken, I think SK B1'd Maokai yesterday. And they did, well, maybe not yesterday, but they have been doing that in the past. But the Jax is open like we talked about.
He will take it,
There it is. And I wonder if we'll see the Vladimir, maybe,
that's what I wanted
response.
to. Perfect. Would be a good time to flex the champion, I think.
I think the Vladimir looked pretty solid. Lane, he didn't look like insanely strong. It's definitely a scaling champion. I think Irrelevant as a Jax is very aggressive, so I feel like if BB goes for this kind of scaling style, it might be actually kind of tricky for him to get online. Honestly, I don't think BB will pick Vladimir again. I think he played yesterday and he was like, yeah, it was okay. I did pretty good, but I think against Irrelevant, it's going to be even harder.
Yeah, I think something else that rises up in priority is the Akali flex. They did it yesterday on R4, I believe, and it does really well into Jax in the side lane. It's one of the counters at the moment.
That's what Merwin played as well, right?
Yeah, and he solo killed BB, I believe.
That was Cabo, it was Cabo Shard on the Jax. I remember that game. It was Merwin against Cabo.
Merwin solo killed everyone, man.
Yeah. Cassante as an answer into the Jax instead. I think it's kind of a safer pick. Rakan has been rising in popularity. I think especially into Aphelios, it's kind of like a safe pick. It's something that I think also SK kind of fits with, because DOS is a good Rakan, Exakick is a good Xayah. Makes a lot of sense from my perspective as well. Now I'm curious to see what you play on the side of G2 here on R3.
Nautilus?
There's a lot of different picks. You could play something
Renata.
like the Renata, I think kind of pops up to mind. You can also play a jungler here if you want. There's a lot of options. I think securing the Renata here makes a lot of sense because 1, you win lane, and 2, it's very strong in teamfights against the diving champs of Jax and Xayah.
Yeah.
Locked in as well from Mikyx. Love to see it. So now it kind of tells me that G2 also wants to save their mid pick until 5. There's a lot of junglers, as I said, open still in the draft. So there's Zhao, there's Jarvan, Maokai, Rel, all these champs are kind of S tier and available. They do need some kind of CC or lockdown on the side of G2, and with only jungle and mid, I expect jungle to take that position from G2.
I think you want to kind of overwhelm G2 with a bunch of dive if you're SK, right? So Vi-ban for the side of G2 to deny that Vi-Rakan combo could be really good here, even though they do have the Renata, which might be a bit in, but I definitely think that angle, maybe the Nocturne as well.
Yeah, SK is definitely getting outranged by Renata and Aphelios. It's very annoying to play against these champs if you don't have sufficient dive. Sometimes as Rakan, if it's very obvious that you're the only engaged, it's very hard to dive into Renata, because even if you land the engage, the hostile takeover comes in, and then Aphelios just turns it with the W from Renata. So I think Vi-ban makes a lot of sense, or you just pick it yourself, honestly. I think even though you're playing Vi into Xayah, you can just kind of play like a more tentative engage tool, and kind of if someone oversteps, you engage.
I imagine we'll just see the rel for Isma again, right? He's been going to that every single time, provides more engage, a nice team fight around dragons. I really like it. Yeah,
it's always a solid pick, and he's looked very good on it as well. Will be interesting to see what Yike actually opts into here.
It's probably gonna, it could be an Azir blind, right? Because they banned Corki, it's a setup ban for that.
Yeah, that's also true, if they do that on R4. Seeing the last ban here, it's going to be Belveth. Okay, well, Yike's not getting...
Always scary.
They want him to play Xin Zhao or Rel here, I guess. I think both make sense. The Vi is also, like I said, still available. Vi could be a bit dangerous into the Xayah. It's not something I would personally look into. I would rather that he just plays Xin Zhao here, to be honest. And then counterpick mid, I think, makes a lot of sense. Team fights will be a bit easier. I don't think it's gonna be Lillia, guys.
Hey, Monday, fun day, we said, so might as well. No,
like
Lillia, and one of his staple champions.
Yeah, that also tells me that Caps is playing an AD mid. Probably something like the Tristana on R5. So Nisqy's obviously thinking about this already in draft. And with Isma picking here, he doesn't really want to go for the Rel anymore. That matchup is not really that great, but they do need something that can kind of fight in their kind of roster here. I think Xin Zhao is a very hard matchup into Lillia, actually. But the champ is strong right now, and maybe that's enough for Isma to lock it in, and it is.
Don't think you can deny the Tristana. Is there a pick here that you could pick into Tristana and test prior? Because
yeah, it's kind of hard, right? I'm just thinking Azir in my head. It doesn't really deny the Tristana, but you need some kind of frontline damage here, right? I think you're playing like a front-to-back comp now with SK, kind of having a bit of everything, so to say, and without the Azir, I think you kind of lack damage, so I just expect kind of the Tristana to be locked in here by Caps. Maybe there's another AD champ he's cooked up. ADTF, maybe next patch, not yet.
No, not yet, next week.
Yeah.
Next week, maybe.
A little fiddlesticks. LeBlanc, okay, wow, they go for the double AP mid-jungle, but it's Caps, so...
You are spooky on LeBlanc.
It's probably AD LeBlanc, if knowing Caps correctly.
Okay, what are we looking at here in the first 15 minutes of the game, Eragon?
I'm looking at Lillia and how she can secure her camps, you know, not be invaded, make sure they use their priorities. On the side of G2 to secure her clear, I think that's incredibly important. On the other side, you have a bunch of mid-game skirmishing really popping off once Rakan and Xayah can get through that lane phase and play with Isma and link up.
I think the side of SK, they just have a well-rounded kind of front-to-back comp. Every lane can kind of fend for themselves, and they can kind of play their own game, so to say, and then in mid-game have a very easy front-to-back. On the side of G2, I think they have a bit more individual skill expression. The Lillia can kind of take over if she's actually farming well and not getting invaded, so very different comps here. Will be fun to see how G2 can pilot through the early game.
All right, well, this stage is set for SK and G2, battling for top 2. Casters, over to you. Hey, that rhymes!
It's a good question, isn't it? Who will lock top 2? SK, I've said it every time I've been on cast. They were a surprise for me and for many others. They've come out of the woodwork and they've looked absolutely fantastic with Isma's debut split with his rookie year on the cards. Only last year, I know it wasn't me, but you guys were talking about Yike, this massive prodigy coming through. Oh, he looks so great on carry junglers. And then as we saw him go to Worlds and, you know, across the year as well, we saw that this guy could be versatile. Now in his second year in the LEC, it's crazy. It's like watching a mirror image play itself out as well. Isma versus Yike, G2 versus SK. It's a battle for top 2. And look for G2, a win here as well. Could even go beyond, especially with the loss for BDS.
And just like Yike coming in, traditionally Isma's on tank duty.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same idea. The Maokai gets played on both sides.
True.
But I think Isma's kind of works well as their main engage tool, so I'm curious to see here how he does play. Has obviously played the Xin Zhao already before, but I definitely think he's kind of been the one at the forefront of leading the charge, playing aggressive, having the team gather around him. I think you can still do that with this comp, but certainly the engage tools on SK aren't as easy to execute. It's like, hey, Rakan going in, hoping that Isma can get a knock up. Maybe you're looking at Nisqy getting a shuffle or something along those lines, but I'm curious how, when they go for the invades, if they will be as successful as they usually are without Isma providing that go button that he usually does.
I think we also got to watch again, as Eragon said on desk, Yike's first 15 minutes, how does he secure these camps safely without Isma getting in his face? And I think you can say Isma Nisqy as well, right? Because this jungle mid duo, despite what we're seeing on Azir, which we know takes time, has been really successful for SK. I think Nisqy has been one of the most impressive mid laners of the split. Isma for me, I mean, last game especially on his Maokai, getting in the fate, like that was just abusive. I'm going to quote the game so I don't get it wrong. It was against KC. And it was watching Bo just get bullied out by this Maokai.
I mean, Bo definitely responded well by like playing around topside and getting Cabo shard ahead, so a little bit of an upset yesterday for SK, coming in after losing to Carmine Corp, which was not what people expected.
I have to correct myself. It was against Vitality, of course, because that was the success, right, for Isma. Yesterday, not the same story up against KC, you're right, because that was a win. Because KC started winning all of a sudden, and things changed. Hence why SK 5-3, I mean, again, it was such a successful start. The only team undefeated in week number 1 as they beat down Fnatic. But things evened out a little bit. Now against G2, it's going to be a big task. Now Dagda already starting down. Hit level 2. You push out. Mikyx going to get launched up, but Exakick's already out of range. DOS goes for the engage, but Hansama has the range here, and it's still a successful trade for the 2v2 of G2.
Yeah, but at the W for Exakick, kind of hard to close the distance there. You don't get the move speed towards champions, so
sure.
I think that's going a little bit too far forward. Means it takes a bit of damage back, but it means Hans and Mikyx have this control over bot side, which is why it makes it easier for Yike to pick up those camps on the bottom end without having to worry about Xin Zhao looking for the invades. I think it'll be off of the next couple of resets where we really start to see this bot lane come alive, because once you start to hit like double longsword in the bottom lane for Exakick, and you've got a couple of points in towards your E, you can really start to trade pretty effectively, and it becomes more a case of Mikyx trying to prevent DOS from finding the engages that will set up for Exakick and DOS to take over in the bottom lane.
Risky trading the top lane as well. Irrelevant just pushing out as you'd expect of the Jax. I mean, this was left open. There's a lot of respect for Irrelevant's Jax, which we'll talk about later, because Yike's coming down at level 3. The Lillia AoE to be used out as the dive comes through. It's first blood over. It's actually a trade. Now for Yike, he wants to finish off the kill, but he's waiting for Hansama to take up the aggro. Yike comes in the nick of time. Hans picks up the kill. 2 for 1, and Hans gets to crash this massive wave.
Yeah, massive loss for DOS. He's going to miss out on all that CS and experience, but I'm shocked this worked. I was waiting for like Mikyx, but I think, yeah, you see there, doesn't quite get the lockdown into Exakick, and I thought it'd go significantly worse, but just the damage that comes through from Hansama and Yike, able to get down Exakick, and a bit unfortunate for Mikyx, doesn't actually end up falling before the kill goes down onto Exakick, so doesn't get the revive, but still, big win for the bot lane of G2.
G2 coaching staff always just like, well, okay then, you know, always just going with it. I feel like with this team, that's what you have to do, is Isma going with the top side for now. It's Irrelevant and Mikyx made the roam up, but can he do anything for BB? Up in the top side, he's going to get a revive, and he gets Isma, and he does! Mikyx's roam is now beautiful.
The revive coming in clutch, the handshake to toss Isma, saying, get back underneath that tower. And it's SK, who are falling behind in the early game to G2. This is a much cleaner early game than G2 what traditionally have seen this winter.
The bailout just coming in clutch. Who expects Mikyx to be top right now?
I mean, it's a really nice run. I think it's, you know, you expect Isma to go for the top side to answer for the play, so
good
it's great timing. And yeah, there's the handshake immediately back underneath the tower to finish him off. So good understanding from G2 of what Isma was going to try and go for. So Isma now back out on the map, a little bit behind when it comes to just the double assist that Yike has managed to pick up. So Yike going for those boots first means he will be a bit of a nuisance when you're trying to lock him down. But I still think you've got answers here for SK if you want to try and get Isma to work with specifically bot side. Yes, you are behind, but it's only a little bit of a goal difference, and XP is in favor of Hansama, but not enough where you can't claw back with some nice ganks.
Have to see how it works for Isma now, because again, the emphasis is on him. For Yike getting that dive down bot side, makes the game a little bit more chill. I mean, seeing an Aphelios Renata lane in a good spot with a plate already picked up with a kill makes you think, well, okay, job's done down there. But Yike on the Lillia with a gold lead. Job's going to be done in jungle as Hans gets a double root on the 2v2. The engage not working out. Hans keeps hitting away. Cleanse already down. Gravitum gets the slow. They know that Isma's on the top side, or at least now they definitely do. Mikyx and Hans have done the damage here, and guess who's back again?
Yeah, Infernum going to be pushed through, needs to get rid of the Gravitum. There's the red-white, let's fight immediately under the tower.
This ain't no C9 dive, the wave is set up before, 3 versus 2, it's unfair. Exakick gives over another kill. As you said, red and white, and everything's going to be all right. DOS flashes over the wall, but who's going to match it? It's Hans. Give him the bailout, gives him the attack speed. DOS just waiting for the cooldowns, but he won't get it. Hans is now 3-0-1. And SK are in trouble.
It feels like G2 of old, playing the bot side, get Hansama ahead, and absolutely destroying Exakick and DOS on this bottom lane. What are you supposed to do? Like, Nisqy's just chilling in mid. Isma was like, hang on, I made one gank attempt top, and suddenly my bot lane is 3 kills down, and it's just such a nice gank. DOS tries to get the knock up onto Mikyx, who just walks immediately out. The damage from Yike and Hansama is just monumental in taking out Exakick, and then once the bailout's up, knows he gets the speed up as he called out Hysterics. Just easily able to chase down DOS.
I mean, we can compliment Yike, deserves it. Compliment Hansama. I right now want to compliment Mikyx. 100% kill participation because he made that roam top. Ingenious roam that keeps Broken Blade alive and withstands the lane a little bit further where Irrelevant already had a gold lead. What are you seeing? Oh, Lilting Lullaby. Dagda was averting my eyes. I think for good reason. Hansama with another kill. And when G2's early game throughout this split has been so messy, this is a breath of fresh air. This is G2 of old, isn't it?
Yeah, G2 kind of saying that, you know, the stories of my death have been greatly exaggerated with this one. They are absolutely... Oh, DOS.
Well, hang on a minute. Wait, Dagda. There's a flash away.
Don't win. Oh, that was wide.
That was indeed wide. It was a goal post there, and Hansama hits in the middle, but still. I mean, G2 at the end of the day, they're still so far ahead. It doesn't matter. They're 3,000 gold ahead at 8 minutes in. They've just picked up an Infernal Dragon. The only thing they're missing out on are Grubs.
I mean, the 3 of them already went to Isma with all the plays that were happening around this bottom side, but I think you're more than happy to take that trade as Isma, especially as this game starts to go on. You can probably look for more of the Rift Herald than you need to really look for the Rift Grubs, because if you're behind as SK, how do you really try and threaten towers apart from Irrelevant in that side lane matchup? So I think you're going to be pretty all right as Nisqy. Going toe-to-toe with Caps.
Chain is there. There's no Ignite, remember. Caps was 1 hit away from dying. Nisqy can't secure it. He's got TP. No, he doesn't, excuse me. Caps going to have to walk back.
Yeah, but Nisqy doing a nice job in mid. Kind of needs to get control over this matchup. Look, it's not an easy matchup to do so, but having that control will set up Isma a little bit better. But Yike, just making sure Broken Blade can push in this top tower.
Help me, Obi-Wan Nisqy. You're my only hope. You're right, because Yike is now up here. Onto Irrelevant. There's no flip back. He's waiting. That back could be cancelled. Over the wall. Oh, take him to him. It's feeding time. Irrelevant now sees him there. Yike gets delivered. Broken Blade. Future Uber driver, maybe.
Broken Blade had the high ground, and he brought him to the low ground. He made sure that he was going to be able to pick up the kill on Irrelevant. Isma trying to respond, but G2, they're already aware. Hansama and Mikyx, they've backed away. And even Caps is starting to roam down as well, making sure they can cover this.
Hansama has Infernum. There's a lot of wave clear there. And as the wave is just thinned out immediately, DOS is at half HP already. Has to get out of there. Can't risk getting caught. I mean, it's already a 4-kill Aphelios this early on. It's back going to get cancelled. Mikyx poking in. It's cancelled. Oh no, handshake there as well. Exakick. Ulti, I believe, is available. There's the Ignite. The root comes through. Hansama kites away. DOS saves the day.
Oh no!
The wave of terror coming through. Almost killing each other, but DOS wasn't affected. Isma here to cover.
I mean, it's not going to be enough, though. You're still going to get this turret play for yourselves, though. Hans taking a little bit of damage there. Has the Infernum. I wasn't sure if they wanted to bring Yike down here, maybe even threaten Isma underneath the turret, but they're going to be totally fine. I mean, Isma kind of standing there just to collect the wave experience, but there's not much you can do to stop what Hans and Mikyx have started.
True. It's a 1,200 gold lead down bot. You know, casters say a lot of things. People blame them for cursing, but I'm going to say it, Dagda. I'm going to say, I don't care. I'm not superstitious. This could be one of the cleanest early games of the season so far from any team. You can agree with me or not?
Why?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it is. It's the truth. And seeing this is like, as an international viewer, this is why, as an LPL caster, I was always scared of G2, because I'm like, these guys, like, they can be as good as like the FPXs and the IGs, right? That's what always scared me. And Yike right now showing that as irrelevant, not going to go on all in. Mikyx has made the roam once again. But will it matter? Because 6 grubs on the horizon if Isma can get this, but they are scared of G2.
But here's the thing, BB's still pushing down to that bot side, so he would need to TP to try and go for this. Irrelevant, gonna go for the reset. So at the moment, I think they're just happy as G2 to keep the pressure up as Caps.
Well, flashes away, but he's shoved back anyway. Exakick has made the roam. Caps trying to fake it out. There's the real one. The root coming back in auto there. Dos trying to get the kill. He succeeds. A second one over to SK while Mickey's helping Yike take the grubs. But with that kill of the mid laner down, SK might have a handle in this game to get a big objective.
Yeah, still looking to see if you can get the smite, you'll get towards 5, but Isma actually doesn't have a smite available, so there's the reset. Now Dos trying to play into the pit. Mickey, I don't think you really want to step forward here. Exakick is kind of caught between taking this wave to push in the top side and coming in towards this fight. Nisqy getting plates in mid, so SK getting that pick on Caps was huge, and this is why we don't speak about it. It's why we don't speak about it, mate.
I'm not superstitious. I completely
not
refuse
even a little
to believe.
stitious. Not even a little stitious after that.
It's just Caps. You get the best of him. Sometimes you get the worst of him. That's why we love Caps.
Well, I mean, big win coming through for SK. They get 5 of the grubs. They don't manage to finish off the last one. They're going to go for the reset instead, make sure they're back in time for Dragon, which I think is the correct call. But again, Nisqy, huge. Gnasher's Tooth now completed. He's the only person who's got a Mythic. Sorry, not Mythics. Their first items completed. Mythics are gone.
Yeah,
but
okay.
it's going to be, well, actually, I was going to say the two, the jungle and AD carry, but actually Static Shiv now completed here for Caps as well. So at least you got a few opportunities here for G2 to try and play around in this fight, which it kind of feels like it is going to end up being, as SK starting to move down towards the spot side, spotting out where Mickey's going to be in the tri-brush.
I want to see how top lane gets involved in the fight, if at all. Irrelevant pops the ulti, Grandmaster at arms. This young top lane talent now trying to go up against BB is a big ask, but he's done so well in the matchup as you'd expect.
A lot of vision down here for G2 though. They're well aware that Nisqy's moving, and it looks like maybe Yike trying to see if he can get in. Hansama and Mickey going to try and zone Exakick and Dos away from Dragon. And yeah, I think just with Caps having that slight move from mid, I'm not really sure where Yike is. SK are going to completely give that up, even having Isma on the reset.
Also, you know that the 2v2 of G2 is just still so strong. Nisqy going to get rooted up in a second. This time, Cap's not going to get caught unaware. Yike picks up the Dragon. That's 2 here for G2 in the early game. Cloud Rift again for a Lillia. Oh, ooh la la. How nice is it when you put people to sleep and instead you just get the caffeine to go.
Nisqy might have to go here because Caps finds him in River, has the opportunity to pop back over. BB was walking down but decides instead to back away.
Cheeky. Second chain comes out. Nisqy runs on in. Again, the same place this happened before, but it won't follow through with the Emperor's Divide. Nisqy still in a good health advantage as we tunnel back down towards bot side. Despite some of the good news for SK, bot is still gone in under 14 minutes. Hansama is a raid boss this game. And I hope SK find the tools to deal with them.
And we already kind of talked about the threat for the backline isn't massive this game. Yes, you've got Dos who can try and go in. Isma could have an angle of attack, but realistically it's like kind of relevant. Make this hero play to pick it off Hansam in the backline. And I mean, that is a long way from going there. It's pretty much even in the top side. Actually, well, a little bit more gold for BB, but it's not like Irrelevant has had a ton of pressure on that top side and he's snowballing ahead and has the opportunity to one-shot him. So this is going to be tough for SK to try and find this opportunity to bring it back, especially when G2, yes, we've given, I discredit their early game, but we've been giving them all the credit for their mid game. They've been very good at snowballing, finding their opportunities to get for picks, and now with a lead, we're going to get to see what they can do in the mid game as well.
And seeing an early game like this, I mean, the only pick off was Caps, but really successful dives. Yike syncing up with Mickey. It's been a nice way to finish off G2 season because I think, you know, was it last winter where G2 didn't have the best finish, but then ended up winning playoffs anyway?
Yeah, they finished from 4th, which isn't a terrible spot, but yeah.
Oh, if it's not first, it's terrible. No, but Dagda, more importantly, as bot comes through for the dive. We'll have to see how far it can go. Cap playing with him. Into Dos, goes back to his clone. Should eventually die, question mark, but the Ignite seals the deal with Nisqy getting a kill. Much needed for this Azir to try and carry.
Yeah, it should give them the opportunity to get some of the objective edges on bot side. This was always going to happen. You were never going to be able to defend the towers. So SK just trying to find something back on the map. 2 towers, though, would be a bit more of a struggle for them if it did go down, but I'm assuming, well, G2 are assuming Isma's coming across, but Isma's actually just taking the top side jungle, which means now you're in trouble. Is irrelevant. He's stuck around that bit too long. He needs to try and get out of here.
It's level 11 Jax. Play this fight out. There's flash available. Also the ulti. DOS is coming up to support. G2 are pulling away from the dive. Not going to happen in the end. I think that's good temper control, especially for a team that, again, hasn't been as clean as we're seeing here today. So good to see them holding on the trigger, especially when we'll be setting up for Dragon in 2 more minutes as well. Don't want to lose any of those key summoners for the next big play that would lead to Soul Point. At
the moment, the problem for SK in trying to commit to that Dragon or compete for that Dragon is how strong Caps is going to be in a side lane. AD LeBlanc, Static Shiv already completed. It's going to be very, very difficult to try and compete on the push there. And even with the opportunity for you to try and find a gank on the bot side into LeBlanc, it's going to be incredibly tough. And Irrelevant is still going to be fine in the 1v1 versus BB. That's why we're kind of seeing Hans and Mickey moving up here. They really want to get this last tower down, so then they can use that mid priority that you should give a Hans and Mickey on the push, using the advantage they have to start to leave a bunch of vision control down and make it hard for SK to contest you on the map.
So more importantly, just get more gold into Hans Sama, where he's already been flourishing with it before. SK moving up to match. Hans Sama, though, red and white, everything's all right. Let's fight. There's a bit of blight. What else do you want to rhyme it with, Dagda? It's always good night if you're running into it as well. I think more importantly, he's almost at his second item. And we've just seen Exakick pick up his first. As Yike finds DOS, no sleepy time just yet. Not sure if that was elevation or just out of range. There's 50 seconds counted down. That Dragon's coming in. And again, just cloud base stats for G2 for a Lillia is good enough for me.
Yeah, I think it's just hard for SK to try and respond to it. This is where I am curious to see what G2 do, because traditionally they are going to go for Dragon, but like traditionally they've been like, hey, we get 2 early Dragons, we're going to go for plays on side lanes instead and not go for the 3rd Dragon. But with the way they're set up, it definitely feels like they're going to try and, maybe find Exakick actually.
Hang on, ulti pulled out just simply with a handshake. Hans Sama running into, oh my god, the damage as he flashes over Hans, matches him. That summoner used, well, it's Ghost and Flash down, but it's another kill for Hans Sama in light of the Dragon. Pause the game.
It doesn't count, Exakick.
It's a real-life sleep, Exakick. Wake up.
But that's the thing. I think he's pausing because he was like, I was nowhere near the Lillia bowling ball to actually get hit by it. But when it hits, it explodes into a cone. And I think it hit the wall, exploded, and the cone off of the Lillia hit him.
Splashed down.
So I think that's what just barely connected with him. So maybe that's the question mark. We'll have to see exactly what the plan is, but yeah, a little bit unfortunate for Exakick there.
We'll give you guys more information again. Not 100% sure yet, but we'll find out and get back to you reporting what the current issue is. So for now, we get to chill out and pause.
Still, fantastic stuff here from G2, right?
True.
Really strong early game from Yike. I was not expecting these like continuous dives from the Lillia, especially with very little crowd control coming in on that bottom side. Still managed to make it work. They get control there. You've got BB, who's just fine, farming up against the Irrelevant in the top side. And from that point forward, it's like, well, what the hell do we try and do? You're just stuck. Every time you try to fight, you're just fighting in a losing scenario with how far ahead Yike is.
I mean, again, Yike coming through. As you said, bot side was nuts. Just a quick side note. A potential bug has been reported by Exakick. League officials are investigating. So, again, Dagda, you might be on the money, but we'll wait and find out what the verdict is and what's going to happen. Again, great early game by G2. Like, you know, there's no such thing as curses. It's just really, it is their best early, I think it is their best early game.
Yeah, 100%.
Of this split. Like, there's been such a big concern. And the crazy thing about G2, not to just ride the hype train because I'm new here, is G2 is such good mid-game. They always had such better macro. They ended up winning games anyway. That's why they're in the contest for a top 2 lock-in with this. Which is huge, right? Again, they've had inconsistent early games. They've still been able to close it out. Yet this team could be looking at top 2.
But that's the thing. I mean, if they win here, they own the head-to-head against BDS. So they actually just take the top spot out away from BDS at the moment. They'll go to 7-2 match, and then because they beat BDS in week 1, they will take the top spot away from them. So even though it hasn't been the best of times from G2, and we've really questioned the early game, we've been kind of questioning, like, what's happening in the grand scheme of things, but it has been that turtling that strong mid game that they've been able to bounce back from so consistently, kind of opting in towards a lot of these like scaling picks like the Aphelios is certainly in week 1, although we have like tempered away from that a little bit more as the weeks have gone on, where we've seen hands go to things like the Spite Seraphine that was a bit of a meh, like they end up losing that game. The Kalista a bit more aggressive, the Poke Varus.
Yep.
It has been a bit of a different look from them in trying to find a bit more of that early game success, but this one, even with champions that you're like, oh, these will scale, this is fine. This is the game where that early game aggression comes back into it.
And, you know, speaking of the early game, I was just told by our stats team that this is the biggest early game gold lead we've had in Winter overall. No other team has outdone this. So, again, G2 setting a bit of record in Winter. Now, I have an update for you. League officials have investigated and confirmed that there was no bug. We are getting ready checks now, and then we'll be jumping back into the game.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It was
The
trying to get... So, basically the way the Lillia bowling ball works. I don't know what the actual name for it is, but basically when it hits something, swirl seed. Thank you. It explodes out in a cone beyond when it first hit.
Yep.
And even when it hits terrain, it does the exact same animation. So that's, I think, what just barely clipped Exakick. So I think what he was investigating there was it actually just a random hit that ended up connecting with them, or was it actually the swirl seed that came through? So. Yeah, I think just nicely done. Well, unfortunate for Exakick, because he might have been able to get away if he didn't get connected with it. But it does mean, unfortunately, he dies. The pause was for nothing, and SK are still in dire straits.
Better than having it on your mind for the rest of the game as well, right? Get clarity. It's more important than anything. We'll see if SK can find a recovery in this game, more importantly. I've already told you top 2's on the line. SK fighting for that chance here. Early game has just been so brutal, though. So brutal. When G2 have slapped down that bottom lane, Exakick barely in the game. This Xayah Rakan struggling to have impact.
I will say, though, for SK, like, look, the last 2 games have not gone their way. This is a team that I am really, really impressed with. I've been slagged a significant amount of times for putting them in C tier. I'm not gonna lie.
Dude, we all have, don't worry.
But look, I think Isma, massive props to this guy. Coming up from Movistar Riders, he's looked incredibly impressive. He wanted to keep that aggressive style that we got to see from in EMEA Masters, and he even talked about in Euphoria that that's what he wanted his name to be known for, and we've definitely got to see it on the main screen. And now that you've got to see it with like working with Nisqy, being able to play around bot lane, like having DOS work with him on roams, it definitely feels like SK have found a winning formula. This game obviously and yesterday didn't work out quite so well for them, but that shouldn't be we're going to put our heads down and damn, SK, they're just out of it completely, this is a disaster. It's more of a case of, look, sometimes it just doesn't go your way. This isn't a game where, unfortunately, you just got so much attention onto your bot side. That was kind of your big point of contention where you were going to be able to play through, and G2 just beat you to the bullet, but it's a learning point, and now you can start to get back in it for playoffs, because you're still securing yourself that top 3 spot now in the playoff scenario, which is absolutely fantastic.
I mean, still, you know, we've seen how Isma can be aggressive, and on that point as well, I mean, we've seen that game recently versus Vitality, sticking right in the jungle. I think it was versus Dagda. Yeah, of course it was. Where Isma was just owning the jungle over and over, constant invading. I've been really impressed with him, and that's why we kind of compared it to Yike, because I feel like in the debut year, of course, it's not just being on G2, but Yike came in like a glaring snowball, fireball, whatever you want to call it, a comet, a swirl seed, yeah, a bowling ball, as you would call it.
But no, I think you make a good point, but I also think it's the point of having 2 veteran mid laners to kind of guide you and ease you into that, right? And I think we saw that a lot from Isma, particularly in his week 1, where there was even the voice comm of Nisqy going on the Azir, hey, if you can come play around mid lane, we can get this big shuffle, we can set up me for success, and you can see immediately Isma's responding to that. And I think it's that, like, having that, like, older father figure within the team, essentially, to kind of take you by the hand and go, hey, we can make this work together, is going to be important.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick interruption. League officials are currently in talks with SK about the reported bug and reviewing their POVs. So there is still some kind of investigation to go on. Unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Now, in the meantime, I would just like to... Oh, apparently, I don't need to bag people out for not bouldering with us. I can hold on that. We're going to throw back to the desk to run us through what's happened so far while we wait.
Thank you, guys. It's fine. We have a lot of things to talk about. This crazy game and G2. We talked about discipline before the game. I liked what I saw in the early game.
I mean, they had, as was said before as well, the best GD at 14, right? So
I can hear Hysterics laughing, and I love it.
yeah,
Anyway.
Hysterics he thought it was really funny.
Hi guys. Anyway, Treatz, I'm listening to you.
I mean, really good
We
game
can talk
so
together
far
if
from
you guys
G2.
want, it's fine.
I mean, maybe we could just all chat together now, just a big desk. I love it. No, but G2 with a pretty good early game.
Yeah.
Biggest GD at 14 so far in the split, and I mean, Yike's Lillia has been kind of running amok on the map. Double dive on bot lane, Mikyx cover top as well. Really clean stuff from G2 so far, at least in this game.
It's the classic G2, isn't it? And I feel like we haven't seen...
Sorry, can you hear them as well?
I feel like we haven't
Love it.
seen that kind of G2 in a while, because I think it was even yesterday. Handsome was 2-0, and it didn't even feel like they would, like, before it would feel like he would have won the game. It felt like the game was won there and then, whenever he was 2-0 last year, the entire time. But it hasn't felt like that in a long time, and this time it does feel like that. I also think there's stuff to do with the draft, as you see the draft on screen. A big one that's screaming out to me right now is the fact that there's nothing in the side lane to deal with LeBlanc. You have no, like a cardinal sin of drafting is not having lockdown for LeBlanc so that you can just go handle it without having to send 4 or 5 people. And that's what SK have to deal with.
Yeah, and I think overall in the draft as well, like Lillia is very good into Zhao in the early game. She clears very fast. Zhao is more of a fighter, but Lillia clears really quick and can kind of move around the map. And with the counter pick on mid for Caps and also bot lane getting the Renata counter pick into Rakan, they have double counter pick and kind of jungle counter pick. So G2 really took advantage of this kind of draft advantage that they got in this game, and they've run away with the early game here. And I think the Lillia being snowballed, very easy for her to just keep snowballing in this game. She has the Renata W to back her up, and I think if it keeps going like it has so far as well, it will be kind of a smooth sailing for G2.
What I like the most about G2 when they're in this situation is that we know G2 innovating when it comes to draft, but I like when they're creative when it comes to map plays and how to make the best of the compositions they have. And here, I feel like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. They're taking the correct trades down bot side.
Yeah.
They managed to slow push and dive with Yike, really, really standard. And then that unlocks Mikyx to be able to go top side and then cover top on a play that, you know, Isma is really well known for his early ganks, right? Either mid or top lane. Yesterday it was top lane. Recently it's been mid. And they cover off that, and Isma dives to the tower. So yeah, just really clean stuff all around.
I think Caps is the only one on G2 who hasn't really got a share of love from G2's early game so far. Him and BB have kind of just been chilling and just looking at their bot and jungle winning. So I think now the next step for G2 is kind of to spread the goal lead that they have from jungle and bot to mid and top as well, to kind of even out the setting, because LeBlanc this game on the side lane, as you said, Eragon, very annoying to deal with from the side of SK, and if Caps is ahead, no one can kind of shut him down. Yeah,
that's the thing. His time will come in that sense, and we're used to Caps just popping off in the later stages of the game. I want to give you some news on what's happening, guys. League officials have confirmed that there was a visual bug and have offered SK a chrono break, which they have accepted.
Okay.
Wow. What was the bug, though?
Yeah, I don't still know what the bug was. Maybe you guys at home saw something.
The bowling ball from Lillia, maybe.
We're waiting for confirmation.
Yeah, maybe it was the bowling ball that hit Exakick.
Yeah. That would make sense. On the side of SK, though, when you play against a team like G2, like that's gonna throw you this kind of stuff, how should you react, and should you adapt your game plan?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I think that was a SK draft blunder. For
sure.
I think that was an incredibly hard draft to play, just because I've reiterated already with LeBlanc. I think this favors SK so much more because they were losing draft, they were losing the entirety of early game, and they get a redo. So, yeah, change up the draft. Maybe keep an eye out for the LeBlanc angles, because the AD LeBlanc, it's something Caps is willing to pull out.
Yeah, I think the draft will be the same, right? We're just breaking back in the game probably. No, I think the draft will be the same. They'll just go back to before the bug happened. That's what I assume at least.
Works, yeah.
I don't have official confirmation on this, but that's what I would assume. But at least on the side of SK, I think, like we said in draft as well, they kind of want to do everything with their comp. They don't really have anything which their comp kind of excels at. I think they have a front to back, very easy to play kind of comp, but they don't really have anything specific going for them. Bot lane's getting pushed, mid lane's getting pushed, and they don't really have a lot of angles on top lane. So I think G2's comp is very good at kind of punishing that style of comp, because if SK has this draft against another team in the league, maybe they won't take advantage. But G2, they actually had a very good early game for once. They actually did take advantage of this early game gap that they had in draft. And I think that's kind of fun to see, because we said it on the desk before as well. G2's early game, they've been up and down, but this one, so far, very up at least.
Monday, no fun day. On the side of G2,
it's Sunday number 2, like
they
said
to me on Twitter, they said it. Sunday number 2. Mondays do not exist. And that's the issue when you play against a comp like this. And again, players like G2, is that you have to either force mistakes or capitalize on the other team's mistakes, which are going to be hard to find.
Yeah.
If they keep on playing like this.
Sometimes Mikyx He does some interesting stuff. Mickey's my goat, by the way. I think he's the best support in EU, but sometimes he's just out of range from his teammates trying to engage, he's out of position. You know, it's been happening a lot this split. Still, yeah, go ahead, Treatz.
I mean, it's not an EU support if he doesn't int a few times.
That's true.
Right? Like
well, you know what you're talking about, huh?
I mean, I've had my fair share of griefs as well. As an EU support back in the day, you know, you have to run it down a few times to kind of set a name for yourself. So, I mean, as you said, Mickey, he is definitely the EU support GOAT, at least for me as well. So it's fun to see him on stuff like Renata, where he can actually punish in lane. Sometimes when he's just sitting back and just letting his team carry him, it's not as fun. I like to see him on the Nico and the Renata and kind of these playmaker champs, which can actually have an impact.
I mean, you say that, but we saw Hysterics Renata yesterday playing full front face tank. I don't care that I'm a raid champion and I'm always going to go in, but I feel like it's always Healy's style.
He plays everything like an engaged champ. Like his Braum is engaged Braum as well. He's not playing it like a shield champion. He's playing it like an engaged champ, so that's respectable.
Everything is engaged champ if you're brave enough, or if you're Hysterics. What are we expecting here? I want to talk about the game here a bit more because, again, a lot of standings implication. What do you want to see on the side of SK to keep the hope of victory alive?
I mean, I think for me at least, the biggest thing is kind of slowing down the game.
Yeah.
As we said, G2 won the early game, but SK are definitely not out of it yet. They're down a few thousand gold, and they do have this kind of easy front-to-back skilling comp in the late game. So if Azir and Xayah get 2-3 items, and they can just play a front-to-back kind of fight where Rakan gets a good engage and they kind of have a clean fight, obviously that's a really good angle for them. But I do think it's kind of hard to stop the snowball. They don't have a lot of clear engage tools. Rakan is not really enough to engage with Xin Zhao. I think Xin Zhao in this kind of spot in the game is a bit lost in the sauce. He doesn't have a lot of angles. Not anyone kind of that he can gank. He can't kill caps. It's impossible. Ganking Aphelios and Renata is very hard, and Cassandra is kind of immune. So I think it's kind of hard for Isma to find an angle right now. So I definitely still favor G2, but scaling is the name of the game for SK, I would say.
Yeah, I think the only angle they have is that single target burst where everyone jumps on the Rakan ult, you know, with the Xin Zhao as well, and they have a bunch of upfront bursts. But then, you know, they have the Renata W, the bailout. So what do? Right? It's a really rough game, and that's why I kept reiterating draft. I think it's a super hard one to come back from.
Draft Diffie. If G2 wins here, we said it, they grab first place in the regular season in the standings. They don't look to me like the best team in the league, though.
Ooh, you think it's BDS?
Maybe.
Maybe.
No, the ones that look the most stable, though, but I don't know what you guys think on this.
I mean, it's kind of tricky to say. I feel like always, especially with 3 weeks of regular season, I think it goes really quick. It's kind of hard to assess in these 3 weeks if they're like testing something special or if it's just kind of, I don't know, they had a good week. They found Seraphine Senna first, you know, like you never really know what these wins mean, so to say. So for me, at least going into playoffs, if G2 wins this and has this convincing early game, I would say they look pretty strong because we kind of flamed them for the early games before. And if they pull this out before playoffs, it's like, oh, okay, well, we were just wrong all along. They actually can play early game still. So it will be interesting to see. But yeah, early game, very important for G2.
We have more info for you guys at home. League officials have investigated the bug and they have confirmed that the interaction worked as intended. We will resume shortly and we can check it out here. Experts of the game, tell me what you think.
I'm looking for the Lillia because I think that's the bug.
Is it on the wall?
Oh, it does just hit the corner of the wall.
That makes sense, though.
That is a bit unlucky. He's question mark pinging the bug. If this was solo queue, I think it would not end with a question mark only, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That would be a jungle diff.
The particles disappeared into the wall, right? So he's question marking it.
All right, we'll see what the casters think about this or what they want to say about this game. Back to you guys. The game will resume shortly.
Okay, thank you very much to the desk. We are resuming. No Chrono Break then. We're just going as is. That means that Exakick did die. Apology to the desk. I was just singing in the meantime, going la 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 la, you know, having a great old time while we were waiting for this pause. But we are
beautiful,
back.
Honestly.
It was, it was having a good time waiting for this one to come back. 5-0-1 Aphelios, by the way, with that kill counting. We're right back where we left it. Thank you for waiting so patiently. It's a hard one as well because the ball disappeared in the wall, but Dagda, as you said, the cone splash damage, it hit.
I am kind of curious at the desk though, right? Because they're like, there's no Diffie in the Jiffy, but they think it was just a bad draft. So is it contrasty in the Staffy?
I'm sorry, what?
The background staff messed up, you know? There's no no jungle Diffie, so there's no Diffie in the Jiffy.
Yeah.
It's contrasty in the Staffy.
Yeah, it just it sounds a little bit wrong. I'm not going to lie, Dagda. You know, that is the craziest thing you've ever said on cast. Definitely getting towards the end of the split when Dagda sounds like me on a normal day.
Look, it's been a long weekend, all right?
True, very true.
But
Been our final one. A bit of stakes for you where G2 are at. Not outside the fact that they secure first with this win, but more so the fact that they are in control. It's a 3K plus gold lead. They are on Soul Point, 4 minutes 30. Secure that if they so choose. Cap's in a bit of trouble though. Good damage coming out of Irrelevant, but he pops back. Titanic Hydra is a big threat. He will not stand in the face of this Jax any longer. SK, they need something in this game. They've got the 5 Void Grubs, but Dagda, they've got an AD carry who is behind half an item. They need something to make themselves relevant.
Well, it might be irrelevant, right? Because I think the whole point is this guy is going to be your late game scaling. He's the one that you can kind of hope for alongside Nisqy. So I think a lot of this is going to be how much time can Irrelevant buy in this matchup. You can see Broken Blade even opting for the Frozen Heart to try and disrupt a lot of the auto attacks that will be coming through from Irrelevant, kind of knowing that his goal in the side lane is just to survive. Although Irrelevant may not be surviving too long if Mikyx has his way about him.
Well, DOS is coming up as well. I mean, it is a Jax. He can leap strike to a ward, but with a handshake there, grabbing him, blocked by the counter-strike. Nicely done by Irrelevant. And it's still hard to get the kill. Hunsummer just appreciates the wave, takes it with ease.
I think for G2, you're relatively okay with where you are in the game. You're like, right, we got control over our mid lane. We can keep pushing there. I think you do have to send Caps to a side lane. May actually just get it now as he starts to roam up. They want to try and get this top tower. But SK, they definitely cannot hold on to this. It's a jungler and support versus so many more members here from G2.
I mean, that was one auto from Calibrum onto Isma. So much damage as Mikyx steps up. The turret finally dead. SK making a TP play. They need something massive here with Nisqy and Irrelevant, but it's being matched as G2 are still the stronger ones. They go all in, but Hansummer is sitting back. The Lillia also untouched. The ulti from Hansummer doesn't hit, but look at that ulti as they flash away. The Lilting Lullaby does the rest, and G2 are on a slaughter. Isma, whirlwind of emotion, but Cap stops him as he frequently finds the base. Now for Yike running forward. G2 unscathed, uncaring of SK this game, and looking for a first place finish.
And this is going to be Baron now for G2 as well. It's just spawned. You have a ton of damage with Yike and Hansummer. BB can tank this up like it's nobody's business, and it's all down to what SK can do. Nisqy has the ultimate. Can he set up for the play? But even then, I don't know if you got the damage.
Well, you're right. Broken Blade flipping out. I mean, again, it's so dangerous. Nisqy just flashed away, trying to auto-attack. Mikyx is going to bail himself out, but Irrelevant can't finish the kill. The shuffle back's great as Nisqy flies to safety, but at the cost of Baron. It's Mikyx's life. Broken Blade running in onto DOS. He needs a bit of help. With a flip back, he gets out in the nick of time, but G2 with the purple buff with a 7K gold lead are looking mighty fine.
It's a 1-for-1, but you take it every day for G2. You get a support trade for top laner, you get the Baron buff as well. And this was SK with desperation. They tried so hard to get it, but I think once the double TP came in, they needed to just back away. And here, there's just not much you can do. Even if Nisqy sticks around to try and shove them all back, I think he just dies for his effort with the amount of CC and the chase down that Yike has here. Good job from Isma to try and use that ultimate to disengage, but it just wasn't possible. And Capstad looking very, very happy with that one.
Of course you'd be happy. I mean, seeing your son set himself up for first after what has been a strange split for G2, but a real good finish. Gives us high expectations once again. A quick reminder, this Red Bull Baron power play, we begin the onslaught to try and end this one at 22 minutes. It's a 7K gold lead. We've got 50 seconds to a Cloud Soul. DOS is getting a little bit risky in this pit, trying to set up Vision Dagda, because it feels like SK are going to have to make their miracle play to deny the soul from G2. Otherwise, it's just going to be game over. It feels like again.
Yeah, they're taking a lot of risks to try and get these side waves pushed out. Nerdy comes back to bite Irrelevant there, but having Dust actually spot out where people were going is fine. Nisqy, though, now finds Caps forcing away. Isma going to try and chase him down just to see if they can get, again, just push out sides. But you can look at G2, they're starting all to collapse on mid lane, knowing Isma's on the top end.
I mean, yeah, that's the problem. There's no jungle there, so you're going to give away Soul. Objective bounty goes over, that's great. But Soul is forever.
Bot lane as well, bro.
And you're right, the fact that the trade is fantastic because you're going up against a Baroned up team with a very strong Aphelios with 2.5 items. You do not win this pushing battle. Isma still hasn't backed away. Nisqy's still there as well. SK are left with 3 members. And G2 can just walk in. Do they care? No. They've got Broken Blade, who is literally a fridge. 450-litre Samsung fridge. That
So
guy
he's a
can hold
unit.
so much. He's a unit. Exactly right.
Well, I think the problem is that Hansama just not having the correct guns there. Caliburn not available, so with the Infernum, very short range, can't really step up to take the tower, but it still draws SK back. Easy dragon take without the tier 2 going down on top side that SK really would have liked to trade for this dragon objective.
Just a free deal here for G2. It's going to be taken. Dot's going to come late to the show. Cloud Soul over to a Lillia, over to a Cassante, over to Caps on LeBlanc. Irrelevant trying to clear the way,
no.
but he's run into trouble. It's not on the double, it's on the triple. Now the quadruple. Hansama with another. This Aphelios is untouchable, invincible, unbeatable. G2 showing us the best game of the split, the best gold lead we've seen of the split as well. It's not even close right now. Exakick, speaking of which, he is dead. Handshake down. He knows it's over. Mikyx gets his just desserts.
And this is G2 looking unseedable. This is the G2 that we look back towards that was so good at the end of summer. Season finals, going to Worlds, but couldn't quite get across the finish line. G2 have to see now if they can win this game. It looks very much in their hands if they can put themselves in first place and if once more they can be the top dog when it comes to the European League of Legends.
Got to finish this out cleanly. It's inhibitor turret through mid, but it's inner through top side that they're now focusing on. No Baron buff available. That disappeared a while ago. But they've got another one to play for in 2 minutes. For now, trying to appreciate this with the hostile takeover. Zoning out, the minions get a little bit dirty as well as the handshake does a good job. And the Hansama damage means a lot as well. It zones out SK. It threatens them as look at the speed. Hansama's frontlining. He does feel invincible well and truly.
In 6-0-4. Hasn't even finished his third item yet. I imagine working up towards that Bloodthirster. With the way things are going at the moment, he is so damn strong. The outer turrets are gone. There's very little left in this game for SK. They are holding on by a thread, and that thread is dwindling with Baron timer ticking down, with Elder Dragon after that as well. I just don't know if you get to finish it. Damn, actually, Nisqy, a lot of damage this game.
I love how I think last game my mistake was thinking total damage was gold. I obviously misread because I was like, there's a 9,000 gold lead. Obviously the damage graph there, ladies and gentlemen, not the gold. The gold lead's different. It's 3,000 in the AD carry, but look at jungle. Yike is up 3,500 gold. When we talked up Isma and said, what a great jungler he's been. I mean, don't forget Yike, second year in the business, and on Lillia, 3 items. This guy's smashing it.
I think Lillia is very underrated at the moment.
Agreed.
Both times we've seen her in LEC, she's been absolutely insane. This combo of Leandries and Riftmaker is disgustingly strong, but now you're getting to see what Yike can do, and it definitely loves his carries, especially when he can get off the Maokai. And he is making it work at the moment as G2 starting to siege up once more. They're going to start to push in, get vision control on this top side, push in waves, and then look to burst down Baron incredibly quick with everything that they have at the moment.
You can see Caps trying to sync up one wave in the bottom side as well. He's got teleport if he needs. But G2 at this point is so strong, maybe a 4 versus 5 is even easier as DOS runs in with the quickness, but Mikyx hostile takeover sets it up, the lilting lullaby. Yike is sending him to bed, and to bed SK will go. No hope, no chance. G2 can't lose this one. Cap sits there against the wall, says, don't hurt me, I'm so scared. But Yike now running forward to Nisqy, gets one shot by Hansama. This is the G2 we were promised.
And G2 will march in towards the base, and they will march their way to victory.
It's their first place lock-in. It was SK looking competitive until we entered this game. G2 with their best early game. The best early game of winter will lock in first. The best team running into playoffs. You can say it again. It's G2.
G2 owning the head-to-head against BDS will put them into that first place spot. For SK, they will secure third. They still have the strength of victory over the other teams that are there. But for G2, you can see a fantastic victory for them. Player of the game, vote now at LEC on X, Yike, Hansama, or Mikyx. And honestly, you have your work cut out for them. A huge amount of that success for G2 is based on those early dives in bot lane.
I feel like your key player of the game is going to be a little bit harder, but you know what? My vote's for Mikyx. Mikyx Renata, legit. Where we get Hansama in. I mean, this guy is Aphelios as well. Fed to deliver, and deliver he did. Seeing G2 like this puts a lot of hope in the hands of the fans. But right after this break, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have more on G2's win. Don't go anywhere. We'll come up with our final game as well.
Wow, this is amazing.
I mean, I had a break, so... do you want to try? I'll be right back.
I want to try. Me? Maybe. What am I
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Wow! Very incroyable, magnifique. What